Thank you, Mr President. I'd like to ask the Chief Minister what actions he is taking to restore business confidence and the island's reputation following the Panorama programme and other media coverage.
Following the Chief Minister, Mr Quayle to reply.
Thank you, Mr President. I am pleased to be able to provide an update to honourable members on our progress to defend our island and our economy against what has been a deliberately orchestrated attack from the international media. Whilst a large part of our diverse economy is not directly affected by the media focus, we cannot underestimate the impact it has had on our reputation and those of other international finance centres around the world. Our overall message has been clear and consistent, Mr President. The Isle of Man is not a place that welcomes those seeking to evade or aggressively avoid taxes. Where the Isle of Man's integrity is challenged, we will not be complacent. Against a backdrop of significant allegations surrounding VAT treatment on business jets, we acted swiftly and decisively to take action, demonstrating that the island is a well-regulated, open and transparent member of the international community. In order to defend and protect the island's reputation, our approach has been to engage. We will continue to articulate our position to the international community through interviews, answering media queries, addressing allegations against us and robustly correcting errors. On Ireland, the Cabinet Office, together with colleagues from Treasury and the Department of Economic Development, have all been engaging directly with local businesses and industries. This dialogue has enabled us to understand concerns they have and provide reassurance on the actions we are taking to defend the island's reputation. Off-island, we are engaging with key stakeholders in the UK and the international community who understand the value international finance centres play in the global economy. We are now seeing some more balanced and reasoned arguments coming forward from expert commentators, which we welcome. We will continue this engagement to help us ensure the debate is balanced, based on fact, and that our hard-won reputation for international compliance and transparency remains front and centre. And, honourable members, it is not only us saying how compliant the Isle of Man is. Last week, the OECD Global Forum on Transparency and Exchange of Information for Tax Purposes published its latest ratings following the start of its second round of reviews. The Isle of Man has retained its top compliant rating. This makes us one of only 6 countries to be awarded the top compliant rating during the second round of reviews, and we are currently only one of 3 to have been rated compliant in the first and second rounds of reviews. Mr President, if I may, I would like to take the liberty of reading the OECD's summary of their review of the Isle of Man. The Global Forum concluded that the Isle of Man continues to be compliant with the international standard on transparency and exchange of information upon request. The Isle of Man's legal framework for the availability of ownership, accounting and banking information is in place, and legal obligations are subject to proper oversight. The new obligation of availability of beneficial ownership information was previously primarily addressed under the anti-money laundering rules. To address the gap relating to entities that are not required to engage an anti-money laundering obliged service provider, the Isle of Man passed the Beneficial Ownership Act 2012, which now extends obligations to identify the beneficial owner or owners to all relevant entities except for general partnerships. Provisions requiring entities to hold and register information on their beneficial owners, Isle of Man has successfully exchanged both legal and beneficial ownership information in practice. The Isle of Man also addressed a weakness identified in its practice during the last round of reviews, namely the sharing of information received under an EOI request with the Financial Intelligence Authority. In terms of exchange of information, the Isle of Man has been commended by peers for its highly efficient and cooperative EOIR practice. That's exchange of information revenue. I am delighted with this rating, which demonstrates clearly our high levels of international cooperation. So, honourable members, in closing, my message to our businesses is clear. We as a government are determined to create an island of enterprise and opportunity. We want to grow our economy, we want to increase our economically active population, and we want to encourage a skilled workforce to relocate to the island. We have the skill, talent and drive amongst our people, and we will continue to grow and we will continue to flourish. Thank you.
Supplementary question, Mr. Shimmins.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the Chief Minister for that comprehensive reply. I think we all very much welcome the OECD review, especially as decisions made elsewhere can affect us all here on the island. How confident is the Chief Minister that he is effectively engaging the key external stakeholders in the UK and Europe to drive the necessary positive outcomes for the island?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank the honourable member for his questions. We have undertaken interviews and provided material to defend the Isle of Man for the BBC, Guardian, Telegraph, iPaper, Evening Standard, Radio 4, Radio 5, RTE, ITV and trade press in the UK, Germany, France, Italy, Japan and the USA. Also, we have been working closely with the UK Government to facilitate responses to media and parliamentary questions. We have also been ensuring key contacts, particularly in the UK Parliament, have accurate and comprehensive information on the work the Isle of Man has taken in respect of meeting international tax and transparency standards, and it was pleasing to see that some of our friends did stand up and defend the Isle of Man in the House of Commons with the information that we had provided to a number of key contacts.
Honourable Member for Douglas North, Mr. Peake.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's really great to hear that we've been awarded the top compliant rating by the OECD. Does the Chief Minister believe that the external support he's received, particularly from Lansons in London, are an acceptable standard?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I'd like to thank our external relations advisors, Lansons, who are based in London. The advice they gave us on some of the strategy has proven to be highly successful, culminating in a letter I received from a senior government, UK government official praising the Isle of Man for its proactive its proactivity in attacking the allegations made against us, especially on the VAT and the aircraft registration of jets.
Mr. Shimmins, supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. President. Clearly, a lot of work is being undertaken at the moment in engaging with external parties. And I guess how effectively we respond to these challenges will have long-lasting implications for the island. How will the Chief Minister consult with his ministers and others prior to taking further action to restore confidence and reputation?
Chief Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, obviously, I think I gave my answer, Mr. President. The fact that Treasury and Economic Development had been involved in the defence of the island, of which the Honourable Member is a member of Treasury at last count. So, therefore, I would have thought he would be aware of what was going on. But we are actively out there engaging with all three departments, with the business community, and we will continue to do that.
Honourable Member for Ramsey, Mr. Hooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. In light of the recently renewed calls to make beneficial ownership information public, will the Chief Minister agree that there is a difference between privacy and secrecy, and the island's work to date very clearly shows that we are not a secrecy jurisdiction?
Minister.
And can I genuinely thank the Honourable Member for Ramsey, Mr. Hooper, for asking that question, because it's worth pointing out that the international standard, Mr. President, on beneficial ownership is to have a register, but to have a private register, not a public register. It's only the UK that have gone down the road of having a public register. Now, the Isle of Man has exchange of information treaties with every country in the European Union, with America, and the UK, obviously. So we are open and transparent. It's not just me saying that, it's the OECD who have just given us a fantastic rating. and I do take on board his comments. But as I say, we comply with the international standard.
Honourable Member for Ramsey, Dr Allenson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the Chief Minister agree with me that the wealth of papers that have been released, illegally obtained, have yet to show any particular illegal activity on behalf of any of the people involved? Would he also agree with my perception that some of the comments made about the Isle of Man and its international reputation seem to be born from minor personal political agendas rather than an overall view of the international business that the Isle of Man carries out across the world?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank the honourable member for Ramsey for his question, because he's absolutely correct, Mr. President. We to date have seen no evidence of any wrongdoing. And that the only, as was put, I think, by the Cayman Exchange chairman, the only evidence of wrongdoing is that there has been an illegal hack of information. That is the only evidence of wrongdoing. If anyone has an ISA, money based in an ISA investment in the UK, what are they doing? They are reducing their tax liability. That's all these allegations are, that people have reduced their tax liability, but it is legal and all above board. So I thank the honourable member for his question.
Honourable Mr. Speaker.
The Chief Minister sort of alluded to the point I was trying to make my question here, which is about that he's highlighted that the only legal activity has been the theft of the papers themselves. Is the Chief Minister aware as to whether the papers were taken from this jurisdiction and whether or not the police have been informed?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not aware of any attacks on the Isle of Man or leaks from the Isle of Man or theft of information from the Isle of Man. I had always been led to believe that this happened in Bermuda, I think, was the place where the information was taken.
Honourable Member for Arbury, Maloo and Castletown, Mr Moorhouse.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to ask the Chief Minister, given the importance of getting across the correct message, has the time arrived for the Chief Minister's office to retain editorial rights where interviews of national importance are given?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would love to live in a world where editorial rights could be retained. But sadly, if I had said to the likes of Panorama or Le Monde or whoever, I want to retain my editorial rights, I don't think we could print on Hansard what the answer would be.